Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. And you guys know my habit is to welcome our guests because I truly, honestly feel that they're coming with a couple of things that I know that is very expensive, and that is their time. And that Benjamin is coming and sharing some of this quality commodity with us. It's an honor. And I always try to tell people you must learn to respect time. You must learn to love it. You must learn to honor time, because one who does that will be rewarded for how they respect time. The other is the journey. The journey has a great deal of information that created the individual that we are going to listen to and see. And so we want to honor them for that, to come and share that with us as well, because it is our hope that we will gain wisdom, insight, knowledge, so that we will also become that individual that is before us, so that we can become better at who we are and recognizing who we are and the greatness that is within us. And we want to thank Benjamin for coming here at Threads of Enlightenment and spending that with us. Benjamin, thank you for coming.
Good morning, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, we go wherever you are in the world. I love that thing. One of our customs is when we welcome you, we want you to tell them how do you serve? Because Benjamin, I've been trying to educate them that we are creators. We create by how we process one's thoughts, how we collect it, how we use it to get our desired outcome. And you have done that, and we're going to investigate that. How do you serve mankind, if you will?
Through the journey that I have been on in my lifetime, looking for a purpose was a foundation or a key for self-sustaining mentally, financially, physically, and finding out your gift of what you can provide back is one of those things that I talk about. So I am not only a sales coach, I am a proficiency, or some people call a mentor, whereas the encompassing of everything from sales to coaching to the mental aspect to the working out to the nutrition is what I provide now to get the well-rounded person, because you need to be the best you to be a good salesperson, I've learned. And if you have a good you can be a great salesperson or anything else you want to be.
Yeah.
And so by pulling back from just the skill itself and actually providing all these other tangible things from nutrition, physical activity, working out, health, provides the ability to people to have wealth. Because it's sad to have wealth with no health, right?
Yeah.
So on my journey, I started well over 20 years ago in the sales, back when I left the Marine Corps and got into the gym business and became a personal trainer. Realizing I was recruited to a sales team and got the niche or the knack, realized that I was pretty good at it and made more money than I could doing personal training, and evolved into that and realized that there was a career and also a skill. And if you have a skill that you are good at, you will always have ability to make money. We teach kids nowadays to get out in college and do all these other things, but what do you provide? Which the question you ask, what do you give back? If you're a carpenter, you will always be able to build houses or build things. If you're a brick mason, you can always build. If you're an electrician, you can always wire. Sales is on that same type of level, where if you're able to sell, you will always have ability to retain or actually ascertain money or a salary for what you do, because a lot of people don't want to do it, can't do it, or do it to that ability. And so starting with that, I've done many sales over years, companies, products, cars. I've sold a lot of things, and then started on the entrepreneurial track around 2002. And so from that evolution back and forth, I have worked in and out all around sales. And I started my sales coaching program about 5 years ago. And I started my mentoring about 18 months ago. And it mingles quite well together because I realized that when I train people, I have to realize to get the best out of them is I had to realize why they didn't want to sell or why they couldn't sell. And if I can solve that, teaching them how to sell becomes way more easier. And so the benefit that they get from that is tremendous amount, depending on where they're working or what they're servicing. Where I generate normally productivity-wise between 20 to 60% more from the time they start working with me. So that I'm a proficiency coach. I only work with people that I can better. And so everybody wins in that situation. I give more energy. I can work with individuals who want to get to that different level. And the time that we mix together will be really efficient in their life to not only better in their life, but also improving their skills if they want to stay in the sales game. Is what
I think I always say to people, it's always you. It starts and ends with the individual.
Yes.
The sales or the profession is just something on the outside, but it's all you. And when you fix you, whatever that profession or field that you are going to endeavor in, you will be that much better because you know how to maneuver and work within your gift, if you will. You become a little more skillful. I can't wait for our conversation because I did car sales and I have a couple of stories, and I know you have a lot more because there's nothing like selling cars and having stories. And so it's just marvelous stuff. One of our customs here is to go back because I tell people the picture that you just painted didn't just happen all of a sudden. You had to progress to where you are today. And one of the spaces that we visit first, Benjamin, before we move on, is the family. And usually we're there for a couple of years, we call them 20 years or whatever, 18 years, just time stamp that we're there. But while we're there, we're collecting some data, information from mom and dad. Mom and dad has been traumatized from whatever they are, however they were brought up. And they are looking at the world based on their perspective from their trauma and their life experience, if you will. And these scientists now are going to begin to deposit data into your life and to begin to put data into your computer. What was your family unit like?
I was blessed in a number of ways. Didn't know it until I left. I grew up in a small town, a place called St. George, South Carolina. My mother and father, my mother passed away a couple years ago. They were married 57 years.
Wow.
So I didn't know how rare until I got in the real world it was to have a cohesion of family. My mother is part of 15 children, and my dad was part of 8, and they both were from the same town.
Wow.
Now, I was also adopted, and my sister and I was the only 2 that was adopted out of the 73 grands on both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm part of 73 grandchildren.
Wow.
And
family.
so, yes. And 11 years ago, I found my birth mother who lived 2.5 hours away. And she is part of 10 children. So I have a huge amount of cousins and second cousins. And when I found my birth mother, I had done research for my mother on taking her family back to the 1800s. And I took my father's family as a hobby back to Ghana to find out where that came from. And when I found my birth mother, I found out that she was a historian and a genealogist. So it was already in the blood.
Yeah.
What I was already doing She does. So when I found her, we were kindred spirits. My daughter looks just like her. So by finding her, I was the only child. She never remarried. And so finding her, she not only found a son, she found a granddaughter and a grandson eventually over that period of time. It has been a beautiful thing. She's written a
Yeah.
book. I've written a book. I'm waiting to write the second book about that when I get some time. So the foundation of where I grew up was hardworking on a farm. I left because there wasn't a lot of opportunities. I joined the Marine Corps, went off the war. I came back, didn't want to be a farmer.
Yeah.
So there was options that I had to do. But my dad instilled in me one of the things that he did, very stern, is the work ethic.
Yeah.
And you're a man of your word.
Yeah.
Another thing is he taught me networking was a key. My father knew everyone, and everyone knew him. Even though
Mhm.
he wasn't a rich man, he was rich in the people that he could actually do. So he was my father's name was Audie Brown. So I tell him they should have coined the phrase, or we should have got paid off of UPS. What can Brown do for you? Because my dad did everything for everyone. Right?
That's funny. That's a good one, man.
So you need something done, you call Audie Brown, and he could do it. Your land, whatever you had to do. He was on boards. He was on church. He was on choir. He was a mason. He's 95 years old. He's still around. He's
Mm.
at the house on the property, and my sister's next door taking to him, and he's still just laughy and jovial as he can be, and still hanging in there.
Yeah.
And just got over COVID the second time with
Wow.
pneumonia on top of that. So he's just
Bad
amazing.
boy.
That huh?
I said he's a bad boy, man.
Yeah, yes. So still coherent, still making phone calls, still connecting, even though he's
Nice.
retired and not moving as much as he would like. But to be 95, that is a godsend. So
Yeah.
he's helped me in realizing that in order to get things in life, you have to, even if you're an introvert, you need other individuals and how to communicate with those other individuals,
Yeah.
how
Yep.
to network, and also, the man of your word, because when you don't do that, it will come back to get you eventually.
Yep.
It will. And so he instilled a lot of value. So when I got into the sales, I just added a lot from my background into that, which, did a lot for that so far.
Yeah. Those are some valuable lessons that you picked up, being a man of your word, and the hard work and so forth. And that's what we talk about. Some people, when you go on that journey, that personal journey, and I tell them you have to learn who you are, you have to learn how to honor yourself, you have to learn how to respect yourself, but you have to learn how to honor your word to yourself. Because if you're going to lie to yourself, you're going to lie to everyone else. And so you have to learn how to give honor to yourself and see who you are. And as you begin to do that, um, when an individual presents in front of you and you release those words are you. And they are now, once you have released it, they are looking at you, and based on what you said, they are going to make decisions and trust or not, and all those different things. So keeping one's word is vital in moving through life and growing. And you got some really good lessons and input from your family on that. So here you're moving, you're living with the family, and all is well, if you will, and you're heading towards college. You're there with mom and dad, and what was that conversation in your mind, Benjamin? Because I know you said you went to the army and you went to the military. When you looked at that and you didn't see in this small town, what was that conversation with your mom and dad when you said, I'm going to the military versus going to college?
Well, in our family, traditionally for 100 years, most of our my family in that area and that region normally were preachers or teachers.
Mm-hmm.
everybody were either preachers or teachers or masonry or things of that nature. And so I wanted to go see the world.
Yeah.
I knew that there was other opportunities out there, and I didn't choose the easiest. I could have chose something easy, but I joined the Marine Corps, the few, the proud we talk about,
Yeah.
and such a benefit in doing that because I've not only found friends, I found brothers still to this day, 30, 40 years later, that we have that cohesion stronger than most of my family members. And so that was key in that. But being able to travel the world and see the world, I mean, I did in the time that I was in. I've been to Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Antwerp, Belgium, France, Japan, Philippines. You start name Australia. You name all these places that I've been before I even turned 25. Gave me the university of life is what I call it, because you cannot put a dollar figure on what you can get by going out and traveling. Most of the people that travels will have a conversation and realize the person that they're talking to have not traveled and realize some of the things that they talk about will not be relevant because they're only seeing it from a TV perspective or something on the computer. And their mind is limited because they've never actually seen it themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
So when I talk to somebody about high-level political or things of that nature, one of the things I would put in the backdrop is like, have you traveled? And if they come back and told me they have never left the United States, I now know my conversation is limited with them because they don't understand the full spectrum of what is going on worldwide. You're being fed everything most of the time, and you have this illusion what you think is going on until you go overseas and actually see it, hear it, and also smell it. Right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing.
It is. I agree with you 100%. I can tell, as you said, if someone hasn't traveled from their speech, the way they speak, and their perception of things, and it is painful. And I always, if your family, because my family, we started traveling when we were little kids. I remember my brother went to Africa and so forth, and we came from Guyana, so we weren't really Americans, and we traveled all over. My parents always travel. We always travel, and it gives you a different perspective when you see people at at their ground level, if you will. It really does open you and make you a little more empathetic in your belief system. Here you are, you got a chance to see the world, and you're doing your thing. What was some of those things, Benjamin, that you can pinpoint that you learned or acquired due to your traveling? We talked briefly a little about it, in certain conversation. But what were some of those tangible things, if you will, that you picked up as a young boy, a young man in his 20s, that helped you in your life and shaped you as you moved through life?
That we're way more similar than we would like to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Right. The thing I express to some younger individuals is that when you have someone younger than you trying to tell you something or try to, I don't know, knowledge-wise, try to, I don't know, debate you on certain topics.
Yeah.
I tell people your experience in life doesn't come from experiences, also comes from your time on earth. So a 23-year-old cannot tell a 45-year-old.
Yeah.
But that perception is like, oh, I can tell you. No, you can't. I mean, you cannot. If that person has done anything in their life, if they've done nothing, yes. But if they've traveled and that's where the respect for your elders normally comes about. That people don't even use that term. I haven't heard that term in a while. And you have to do that. So in my 20s, I learned to listen a lot.
Yeah.
And also learned that we're very similar worldwide. We
Hmm.
all have the same needs: to be needed, to be loved, to be held, to be appreciated, no matter what background you come from or what country. And so most of the perceptions that we get on a negative aspect are not our own.
Yeah, yeah. I learned something very fascinating. I mentioned to you that I traveled to. I remember being in Albania, and we have the immigration thing in America today. And if Americans would understand what America looks like in a foreigner's mind, you would want to welcome them and you would want to embrace them. I remember
Mm.
being in Albania, and I was in a market, and this man came up to me and he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from America, United States." And he looked at me, Benjamin, and the his eyes were in ecstasy, and he's looking at me, and it's ecstasy on this man's face, and he said, "Oh, the land of promise." And I remember looking at him and really watching him, and I thought to myself, wow, what America don't know, they don't know. And it's a shame that they are behaving that way, not understanding that those outside of America are looking at your place as like the promised land, as the children of Israel were promised in biblical time. And so you would want to welcome them because they're not coming there to live off. They're coming there to make something great of themselves and make America a little better. And so it's a shame that they don't see the value of that because all of us are immigrants. I am. And every single American in America is an immigrant. The only immigrants that are not there are those Americans that were here. So this argument that they're talking about going back to your land and all kinds of nonsense doesn't make any sense to me because that's not your land, is it? So that's for another time, Benjamin. But here you are, man. Here you are, and you're
He's
moving through
riling
life.
himself up. Don't get upset. Calm down.
I
Calm
know,
down.
man. I mean, that's
You
for
know,
another show, bro. That's for another show.
get
Okay.
yourself
So,
riled up, brother.
but I watched that man's eyes rolling
Yeah.
back of his head, and it was tremendous insight I got at that moment to
Yeah.
see what America does not, what Americans that haven't traveled get a chance and a privilege to see and an honor to see. You got in the army, and I mean in the Marines, the bad boys of the bad boys. They put you guys in the mix at first to fix
Yes.
it and make it right before they put all the other guys in. And you talked about your brothers and the brotherhood of that as you're out of there and you're coming back into quote unquote the world, coming back into the real world, as they say. What were you looking at? I know you ended up in sales, but what did that look like when you got back? Because sometimes, some of your brothers, when they get back, that is a dark place. Um, and
Yeah.
that transition can be tough. What was yours like?
Well, one of the things I do help in my mentoring program is guys who are transitioning from that, because you have a self-sustaining lifestyle bubble that you live
Yeah,
in, and when you come back out into the real world, it is totally different.
yeah.
I took advantage of that with the GI Bill and started school right away, and then eventually got directly into sales because I realized the money or the opportunity that I had to do that. I remember a friend of mine, he passed away about 2 years ago. He said, "I remember your face or my face when we were working in the gym business and you showed me your check and you were like, this is what I made." He was like, "You made, and I made that all from, see, I grew up on a farm where everything
Yeah.
was manual. I worked on tractors. I mean, I was in the field. My daddy, he had about 200 acres. I was in the field I tell a story that my dad was so stern. I worked from April all the way till November till harvesting soybeans, corn.
Wow.
And my dad was very stern, old school.
Yeah.
My mom provided, she was the nurturer of the earth. And 10th grade, went to my dad and I said, I've been in the field since April from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. We just harvested. We just got, the money back from what we did, the fuel and the fertilizer and the seed and all that, all these acres and time and out on a tractor with no top on it, just sunburn all day. And we were going to the mall and I said, Dad, can I get some money? You don't ask Dad for money. I said, I'm going to the mall. Can I get some money to, we just harvested thousands of dollars. My dad went in the back pocket and slowly crept out and went and pulled out $10 and gave it to me. And I was like, I got to get out. I got to get the hell out of here. This is slavery. I tell people, I was the last American slave. Marine Corps was a cakewalk to me. I was like, we get to sleep? We get paid for that? I'm like, holy mackerel, this is nice. So my dad didn't take it easy on me, and I was like, have some more children, please. I need some help. Only son. So my friends knew exactly when to come to my house. He's like, he's working. And if I stay, Dad's going to have me working. So my friends like, you coming over? Like, no. So the work ethic in doing that, when I got out and learned that I had a knack for communicating with people and learning sales and the money and opportunity that I can make through that, it was just ungodly. I mean, thousands. And I'm still to this day, I have two other businesses. I have a limo business and I have my coaching business, and then I'm involved in a publishing business, and everything is on the phone. So most of the work that I do is based upon my vernacular, my voice, and everything, and stuff that you can do with that. Because manual labor, these hands are real nice, and I still can do it. I just pay other people to do oil change, car repair, car wash. I used to cut grass. I had 2 acres of grass to cut. I've done the work. I said, if I make enough money, I don't have to do that work, was my motivation. So you said that's my God delight. Make enough money where I don't have to do what I used to do. And sales was the light for that. So
that is awesome. You got there in sales, and when you arrived in sales, because I did sales as well, but I wasn't as natural as you. When you arrived there, talk to us about some of those stories. I learned a lot of life lessons there, Benjamin. And I'll give you one example. I was selling cars, and this lady came in, elderly lady came in, and everyone moved away from her. And I'm sitting at my desk, and I saw her. And, everyone's looking at me. I was a new guy, actually, but still learning, And I got there, and I'm looking at her. I'm going, oh, I'm going to waste my time. Is all I'm saying. And as I'm walking to her, I said, you know what? Let me practice.
Yeah.
Let me practice. And to do my thing and use this as a practice. So I wasn't thinking about selling. I just want to use this as a practice. And so I went in there and I laid it down, man. I spent the time. I showed her, and everyone is in the dealership just looking at me, shaking my head, and doing all this stuff, laughing, because all of us assume the same thing.
Yeah.
So when I got finished and showed her, spent a lot of time with this lady. Took her to my desk and sat her down. Again, I'm just practicing, Benjamin, just practicing. And I looked at her and I said, so how will you pay for this? Would you like to finance? And, you got to ask for the sale. And I'm just doing my practicing. That's what I'm thinking. And she looks at me, she said, cash.
Well, that's the first rule that I teach in sales. That's the first rule in sales that I teach.
Yeah.
Never assume anything.
Never assume anything. She looked at me and said, cash. Questions. Yeah. And I looked at her and she said, I'll be right back. And everyone laughed that she said that. She's not coming back. That lady came back with a brown paper bag of cash and paid for the car in cash. And her conversation with me, she said, I've been to many dealerships today. You were the first person that took the time and showed me the car and talked to me about it, answered all my questions. Did you know, Benjamin, that that woman sent me all of her friends as referrals? All of them. Young, old, everyone, she sent them to me.
Referrals.
Yeah.
Referrals.
There's a point in
Yes.
time I didn't have to work per se that much because they were coming in so much that this one lady, because I did what I was practicing, I had made my assumption that, just like everyone else, but I changed it and I said, you know what? Let me do something. And in doing that, I changed my perspective and it changed my world. So talk to me when you got there and you understood the communication skills you said on the onset and you got into the sales of where you're at. What were some of those lessons that you learned on the onset from the beginning? Because as you moving in, you get more insight, but when you get there, it's a different world. So what did you start seeing when you got there?
Well, the main thing I tell people is that when you get into sales, having good mentors to give you a good taste of what it's going to be like, because it's not easy, and the best mentors will give you. That's why a lot of people don't do it anymore, is because they hadn't worked with the right.
Yeah.
They don't understand what sales is all about. They have a bad taste in their mouth because it is about rejection. But how do you handle that rejection?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And most people don't understand rejection.
Yeah.
So that's why before you get into a sale, my step number one that I teach people is being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's step number one before you get into a sales process. Number one is being prepared. Are you mentally prepared to take the rejection?
Yeah.
Because if you're not ready. Because that's part of the game. And so
Mm-hmm.
most people don't teach you that. They just teach you to go out there and here's a script and go for it.
Yeah.
And then people get brutalized and they deal with high turnover or they rotate their individuals and stuff like that. So I'll tell you a story. I did car sales too. One of the biggest in my book, I've taken my years of experience to comprise the best of the sales process to put together a good 10-step process for anybody that they
Yeah.
can use. Sales is not about sales, it's about referrals. The
Mm-hmm.
smoother your sales process is on the end, the easier it is to get referrals.
Yeah.
So your job is to make your process seem like it's not a sale, which you did with the lady that you give me an example for, that she enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And once a person enjoys it and actually you're showing some type of empathy, that's why the on my book it says generate referrals, because there's businesses that has no marketing. They just do referrals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my lesson, I go into sales and I'm up there and I'm in the heat of Florida and I'm only selling like 2 or 3 cars a month. I'm watching these people come in because you're on the up. You have to be outside in the heat waiting
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
next one. So I'm doing that 2-3 months. Guy recruited me from the gym sales to come over. You'll do well. I hated car sales. So I'm watching the guys who does leases. They're sitting inside most of the time
Mm-hmm.
and they're killing it. But they've
Yeah.
been there 5-6 years. I just got there and I'm like, you learn from the best.
Yeah.
So every time a person would come up, I would ask if they need a car. They go see Jim. I'm here to see Jim. I'm here to see Jim. I'm here to see Jim. Jim was killing it. Jim would
Yeah.
just sit back in his office, just bringing people in, selling cars. I'm like, how is this guy doing it? So I go to Jim, and very nice, and try to build a relationship. And I said, I want you to, how do you do it? What do you do? And he says, well, if you take me to lunch, I'll tell you. Okay. So he takes this, I think Sam Seltzer back then. So expensive place for steak. I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we sit down we're sitting down having lunch. He's eating the steak. He's very calm, just sitting there eating, and we're just talking. And I'm like, okay, I'm just here to get some insight if you possibly could. And he goes, okay. He said, I'm going to tell you. He says, Brown, you sell cars. And he says, I sell referrals.
Hmm.
And he went back to eat. And I'm like, what's going
Yeah.
on here? You know, it's dropping $100 and this and that. And he says, think about that. And he says, if you want to understand what that is, he says, in about a week from now, we can do lunch again and I'll explain it. Like, this guy is, what the? And he just goes back to eating.
Yeah.
End of lesson, right? So all
Yeah.
week, I'm like, what is he talking? What is this guy talking about? So once again, I had to scrounge up the money. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that lunch. So he sits down. Once again,
Yeah.
sits down. He's just eating a steak. Like, this guy's killing me. He's like, so I sell referrals. You sell cars. Most of the people, anybody I sell a car to, I have a card. I write down what they like. Golf, flowers, whatever. And before computers,
Mm-hmm.
index cards.
Yeah.
And every customer he had an index card. He had information on that person, what they liked, what they wanted, what motivated them. So he started his own referral program in the dealership. So if you like golf, Ken, he would, if you send him a customer, or even if you didn't, every customer that you send him, he would send you a gift certificate for a round of golf in one of the top places in the area
Wow.
for you to do a round of golf, which is about $100, right? But it
Yeah.
wasn't $100. It was the thing that you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miss Mary loves flowers, so when she
Yeah.
sends a referral, he would send not 1 dozen, 3 dozen of roses.
Yeah.
So every time, all he was doing is working the sit. I'm on the phone pounding. I'm out there talking to people. He's just sitting back in the office in the air conditioning, dressed well, comes in. And I mean, he comes in at 9, he's out at 3 o'clock. I'm there from key to key. You know what that means?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the weekends, he would come in and have appointments. And I'm like, this guy, you know, and I always knew, don't work harder, work smarter. And that was the key in my sales process. You make your sales smooth. You set up a referral program. That's another sale that you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you do that right and you know how to sell, you'll make a killing, because most people don't emphasize referrals. They just sell, cut you
Yeah.
off, go to the next in the database, next in the database, next in the database. And I mean, it cost me $300 for this guy to give me this, but I've taken that and made well over it. He knew it too when he gave it to me, because it made sense. And as
Yeah.
you know, if you got Amway, you got all these network marketing firms, and majorly insurance companies use that same type of procedure in their sales.
Yeah.
It's all about the referral.
Yeah.
It's not about the sale.
It's
And
not
if
the
you do
sale.
that, you don't have to do all this marketing and
Yeah.
database and all this stuff. So when I teach people, I said, the sale is not done until you get a referral or a testimony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I learned
Make
that.
sense?
I learned that by, just by doing spending time with this lady. And that's when I learned it. And I learned a couple of things. Do not ever, ever underestimate anyone that's before you, and just take the time with that individual and do the right thing. And that referral will always be there. They become the engine that works for you. And once that referral comes, that other referral becomes this. And before you know it, you have this team of people that are on your side working for you. And had you not done that, you would have just made a sale and lost all that, referral on the back end, as they said. So here you are. You got the $300 advice. You began to do your thing, and you began to make the money. And you got to the gym. You showed the boy the check, and he lost his mind. And you're like, this is easy. So as you are moving in your life, Benjamin, because you became an author and all these different things as you're moving through life. As you're gaining insight within the industry of sales, and you're getting, because you start expanding when you're touching with the big boys, if you will, those guys that are sitting behind the desk. And you had the first one encounter. Talk to me about another encounter that added value, if you will, as the terminology goes, to the individual that was Benjamin that propelled him further out in this field, the industry of sales?
Well, that goes back to the mentors that you have, the people that remind you of things. I had a lot of them. One of them name was Al Lavelle. Oh, big part of my life. And the thing that he taught me is that not everybody's for sales. This guy would fire people and made it such a pleasant experience to get fired.
Yeah.
He would, the way that he would put it, it was another. And I said, "What? Why do you do that?" And he's like, "I like firing people is a pleasant. They get an ability to go out and do something different that they need to do because they don't need to be here. Me holding them here is sabotage. So by letting them go, I'm giving them the ability to be free." So I always teach people, when you fire people, I love firing people because it gives them an opportunity. I took that mantra for them to go do something else. It's nothing personal. Yeah. And the way he would do it is sales is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He would start that off and the people would have this look on their face and it's like, you got an ability now to go out there. I mean, he was selling them on themselves to.
That's funny, man.
He was selling them on themselves. And I was like, look at this. And it would happen every week. We were in a call center. So every week, you pay attention to him. It was like for 3 years, I watched him just because we rotated people, and we're in a tough call center, 125 people doing 180 dials, outbound dials, no computers, black phone in the notebook. I mean, we're rolling. I mean, the movie that was synonymous with Boiler Room. Mm-hmm. The way we had our techniques down, how good we was, and I mean, we're getting credit cards, and fax machines is all we had. A phone, fax machine, and a notebook, and we're rolling. We're pulling down in that room $500,000 a week.
Wow.
So I mean, I cut my teeth, and that was my boot camp. I mean, it was nothing I couldn't do after that point because I was surrounded by such great salespeople. If you couldn't make it, you wouldn't. It was like being on a team. It was a team. If you wasn't good, you wasn't gonna be there. Yeah. You're gone.
Yeah.
And quick. 2 weeks. So if you made it to the main floor with us and made it on a team, it was only 18 people on my team, and it was like 5 or 6 teams. But the people on that team been there for 5, 6 years. So when you come in, you had to prove yourself on a whole nother level. The day that I knew I made it was 3 years prior. I was on a sale, and back then you would have takeovers where the manager would tell you what to say. It's called a takeover. A takeover is when they take the phone over, but they would role play like word by word mimicking. Yeah. And he would tell you what to say. You would take the phone and turn it around like this. He would tell you what to say. And the funny thing is that most of the stuff that he would tell you to say, you didn't believe it. Yeah. But he's screaming at you to say it, and when you said it, it would work, and then you would believe in it. And so it's kind of like when I work with people on a one-on-one basis, the role playing is where you get the biggest feedback because when you practice on your clients, it's horrible, right? Yeah. So role playing, sales is a skill, and skills are not just something you learn through osmosis. You actually have to practice, like welding, like carpentry. You're apprentice for years, plumbers, all these things. You're under somebody for tutelage until you can walk on your own. It's kind of like the same with sales. So when they have people say, "Oh, he could, he has a natural gift," yeah, but does he know a sales process? So I could take somebody with a sales process and kill anybody with the gift of gab. Because the process will be measured and you can adjust it and know when you're doing something wrong. Whereas the other one, you're just winging it, and eventually you're going to do something wrong and you don't know what you did. And it will take a whole lot longer to correct. I've seen people come into that type of atmosphere that was talk all day long, very smooth talking, and they would fire him because he wouldn't stick to the process. And I learned that even though you're a gift of gab person and everybody likes you, doesn't mean you're going to be a good salesperson. You have to be disciplined.
Yeah, it does. So here you are, and you have your mentors, if you will, and you're moving through life and you're gaining your stuff. How did it begin to manifest in you, Benjamin, to start putting your processes together in a format where you are now going to be able to offer it to others? How did that process came about?
Well, I was in BNI and I had a limousine business I've had for about 8, 9 years at that time. So I'm selling on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I wanted to get to the next stage of my life and I wanted to teach. I didn't know what I wanted to teach. I guess it comes
Yeah.
from my family where we're a lot of teachers. And I
Or
wrote down a
preachers.
lot and worked. Huh?
Or preachers. Just reciting what you had said
Oh, you
about
don't
your
want me to
town
be a preacher.
or earlier.
That would be horrible. But I do teach that one of the best salespeople in the United States, and my four best is a preacher. One of the best salespeople. So I said I want to teach, and this is something I'm going to do for the remainder of my life. What do I want to teach? And I'm like, do I want to go back to school? And I realized, why don't I teach what I already knew?
Yeah.
So I knew sales. So I started my program, and it had started to evolve on, and then I started working with people for free to see what type of results they would get. And then I started putting everything together, the program, the hard work and everything. And so that evolved into the 360 because I've done management and everything else. And I just started getting tremendous feedback from people because now I learned, after years later, that I'm one of the weird people that not only can do sales, but I can teach it. Because there's a lot of people that can do things, but they can't teach it. Yeah. So I can teach it. I'm really good at teaching it. And so it gets me excited when the students understand what a sale is. So I'll simplify this for you when I start with people. So I'll ask you a question, you give me some feedback, and I'll relate on it so I can. So sales is simple, but it's not easy. Is what I teach. I have a lot of stuff that I teach. So I asked you, Ken, what is the purpose of a sale?
And since I know what it is, I'm going to pretend I don't know anything. To make the deal, to get the sale, to sell the item. I'm a novice. I'm just playing the novice role.
Right.
Just to get the sale out, because I know most of people think that way, just to make the sale, man. They're thinking about the money for the family.
So the purpose of a sale doesn't have to do anything with monetization.
Yeah.
So the purpose of a sale is simple, right? It's to get somebody to move.
Yeah.
When a child comes up to you and asks you to pick them up, they're doing a sale. How do they do it? They close you. They use the closing technique. I want. So we are all born to sell. We lose it over time because we figure out it's rude. You have traveled the world where you've been to all the countries where everybody sells all the time. In Western civilization, we are taught not to sell. We're taught to earn. You want something, you go work for it. You don't ask for it. So by the time you go through college and work for a company and start to be an entrepreneur, you realize you have to now ask for what you want. You haven't done it in so long, it feels awkward.
Yeah.
So people think sales in Western civilization is a negative connotation because they haven't done it. I go out, I get my degree, I earn 40, 50, 60,000, 100,000. I buy what I want. I use my credit. The only time I need to really use that or negotiate is when I get a car or a house. And if you see people when you go overseas and you see Americans and they walk into markets where people are coming up to them trying to sell stuff, you see the look on their faces like this. It's like this is the way the world really works outside the United States. Everybody sells. But they're so not used to it, right? I make X amount of money, just leave me alone. And so when I start relating this to people that we have it inside each one of us, which is one of the people that I say best in the United States is a homeless person, because if you had to go do it, you would do it.
Yeah.
But most people don't have to do it. and don't want to
Yeah.
do it, it's uncomfortable for them. But if I took away your house, your car, your salary, and everything else and put you on the street, you would turn into a salesperson really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that because I transitioned into network development where I would do the negotiation for to get HMOs to develop their networks. And so I was
Yes.
one of the guys that went out and contracted the doctors and different medical organizations and so forth. One of my mentors, when I first got into business, um, he would look at me and says, "Ken, the no is the beginning of the conversation. At least you know what they don't want." And so he said, your conversation, he would call it, is to find out what they do want and how to give that to them. And when you do that, you'll, in your negotiation, you create that win-win, and they will work with you. Some of the best advice. So I used to, when I got there, Benjamin, I was so excited when I heard the no. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know it just got started, you know? And so I was always excited when that first objection came into play because I know it has begun. And is, as you said, you have to learn how to now listen. Everything becomes a dance, body language, the way one twitches, the eyes move, the lips, all of those things they trained us to when we did negotiation with folks to interpret and collecting data as you're watching these guys. And it's amazing what you would get from that conversation, from a turn, a move, when we negotiate certain things, and when you do something, and they always say that the next person who speaks lost the game.
Well, let me give you a key on that one since you said that, right? You ready for this?
Yeah,
So I'm in a sale. I'm doing one on the phone, and I get to the close, and the rule is the first one talks loses.
yeah,
And I knew that, and I had to learn that over a period of time and be disciplined in that. So
yeah,
I said, "What card you want to put it?" I'm talking to a gentleman from Texas, and I go, "What card you want to put it on?" And we wait. And I used to have a ball I would play with, and I
yeah,
would hit mute, and I would wait.
yeah,
And 6 months, managers had a phone that can watch and say if they're still on. They didn't hang up. 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in, 8 minutes in, 9 minutes in. And he called over the Brown's got a 9-banger, we call it a 9-banger. 10 minutes and 32 seconds of silence.
wow,
10 minutes, and then he said, well, and then it was about another 45 seconds. And then he finally said, let's do it.
yeah,
So if I would have said anything in between that time frame,
yep,
it would have tore everything that I did to work down. And I teach people that, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't believe it.
yeah,
But I knew the rule, right? The steps,
mm-hmm.
the
Yeah,
formula. That's what you do. And if you break those, you lose.
you lose.
And so, yeah, that was my record. I think I don't know if anybody broke that, but it was 10 minutes, just dead silence.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah,
I just sat there and waited.
yeah,
But most people can't fathom that type of the
yeah.
sweat, the anxiety that would build through that would drive you crazy.
Yeah, it's a discipline art sales. You have to learn to discipline yourself, discipline your mind, as
Believe in
Benjamin
the
is saying.
system.
Yeah,
Believe in the system. Because most people, I said, don't believe in yourself. The system will set you free. So the 10 steps that I teach will set you free. If you believe in the system, it doesn't worry about you. It's not about you. It's how well you
yeah,
perform the system. Because if you rely on the system, you don't have to worry about. The worst thing is to get off the phone or finish a sale, and a manager comes to you and somebody says, you didn't get it, what happened? You can't answer.
yeah,
So if you don't know what you did wrong, how are you going to change it? What are the measurements that you probably did? Did you do this wrong? Something went wrong, but if you can correct that, which we did on a large basis, and when I was working, they would pull you off the floor in a heartbeat if your numbers went down, pull you in a room, they would record you, and they would play back your recordings, and they'd be like, where are you going right there? And you'd be like, I don't know why you said that right there. And they'd be like, okay, and they'll go back through the steps. So you're missing this step right here. You know the step, you just stopped doing it. So we're going to take you off the floor, go in the back. You're going to practice it the rest of the day, and then you go back on the phone tomorrow. So you're not only losing money, you got to go back through and retrain something you've already known. You've been doing for maybe months or years. When you go back on the floor the next day, you start getting sales again. So it sucked. But if they would have kept you on that same path, you would have been going down, 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 down in your confidence because your sales was going down. Because you just suddenly, because we're humans, just took something out that you would normally use. And it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, the system is based on human behavior. Let me put that out there so you'll understand it. It is based on human behavior. And so when you are in a place like the boiler room, you're seeing human behavior on such a level that you cannot, that's all data that is being collected. And these guys have been collecting the data of human behavior in that arena of sales and that conversation. So when they say to you, follow the system is based on human behavior, and they know the outcome from the data. So you have to stay on the system because it'll bring you the outcome that they already know is baked into the system because it is a part of the human mind, and they study that. So that's why
when I work with entrepreneurs,
that's what it means.
When I work with entrepreneurs or I go to a company, the first thing I ask them, what is your sales process? What is your sales system? If they can't answer that, how are you going to bring somebody in and teach them? Here's what we do here. So once you have a sales system in a $1 million company and you bring in salespeople, now you're just vetting them. Can they stick with the system? You're not dealing with personality issues. Can you stick with the system that we gave? It works, right? So that's the discipline that you're looking for when you hire. You're not looking for people who's energetic and all this kind of other stuff, ready to move. Can you follow the system? Because we had it proven. So if a company does not have a system, most of the reasons the difference between an employer and a salesperson is that the employer doesn't have enough tools for the sales rep to be successful.
Right. And guys, everyone that's listening, I brought Benjamin on because I wanted to have a conversation about sales, because so that you guys can understand the fundamentals of it and how it would be able to assist you in what you're doing. Many of you are those maybe listening that are at a sales position, and you are having that little, that space where you're losing your confidence, if you will. I have someone that understands human behavior that will assist you to make those adjustments. If you don't have a system, I'm sure he will be able to help you put one personally for you that will bring you that outcome. And Benjamin is absolutely right. Every single company that I've ever worked with as the marketing director, I would ask them about their system. And it always took me about 2 years to put the system in place because of other people and getting to know the other folks in there. And after that 2 years, every single place I've ever worked, I could stay home and sleep, never come in, and the system is in place. And the numbers will always, always, always be there. And because that system works. And so I have a young person here that understands the system that will be able to assist you personally. It's this personal stuff that then you do at your work learn the system personally, you will always be successful. Anything that you do. Benjamin, thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. This has been good stuff, man. You reminded me of some of the things I did. I didn't even go into some of the stories we went into, and I know you have a ton of them in car sales, man, that will make people just lose their minds and say, you got to be kidding me. But I just want to thank you so much for coming, man. And again, guys, I have someone that is able to teach you that personal system. It's not a sales system, it's a personal system that will make you a good salesperson, that will make you a good whatever person, that will make you a whatever that is. But you must learn that. And the system is based on human behavior and outcome. Again, Benjamin, thank you so much, man.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.